Hello, welcome back to 100 years of Nazdar history. Some of you will remember that in December of 1999, there was widespread fear that on January 1, 2000, all computers would reset to 1900 because only two digits had been used to mark the year in many software programs. Well, fortunately, that never happened, but it was taken seriously here at Nazdar, and it brought a new focus to the importance the IT department has in the company. The first decade of the 21st century was the transition for many Nazdar employees to laptop computers, cell phones, and the online sales of Nazdar products. The Nazdar Information Management System, or NIMS, went live way back in 1988, and the first company email system started in 1997. So by the year 2000, the IT department, led by Chris Davis, was growing and was part of everyone's day-to-day life at Nazdar. Later in the decade, the internal business program Z6 went live in 2006. Nazdar started the new decade and a new century with a declaration of providing quality products and services consistently. In December of 2000, Nazdar became ISO 9001 registered. This level of ISO conformance covers the design and manufacturing of screen printing inks and specialty coatings. Nazdar has maintained this ISO 9001 registration every year since. In 2001, Nazdar introduces their first digital catalog that listed the inks, media, and equipment for the graphic, wide format inkjet markets. This indicates Nazdar's commitment to this new and fast-growing printing process. This even included software that was being developed for screen printers. Earlier that year, Nazdar introduced 3 versions of the ColorStar software: an online version, a customizable version on disk, and one that is part of a scale and computer system called the Checkway system. This software was sourced from Spec Incorporated by Tom Francis and is being sold and used today. One collection of photos we have in our library is this set from the Shawnee production facility in early 2001, a sparkling clean ink milling area and warehouse. In 2002, Nazdar introduced a series of solvent-based digital inks for Vutec, Signtech, Newer, Raster Graphics, and Cytex printers. These were the NDI series of inks. Later that year, Nazdar became a distributor of Roland and Vutec wide format printers, which remain our 2 largest brands of graphic inkjet equipment we sell today, with Vutec now being part of EFI. During this same period, many of the largest textile printers in the U.S. are moving their production facilities to Mexico and Central America. Nazdar meets some of the supply needs by opening a distribution facility in Honduras. In 2004, Nazdar introduces the PED system for employee reviews. PED stands for Performance, Expectations, and Development. This evaluation program came in a 1-page and 9-page version depending upon your exemption status. This program was used up until 2020 for all Nazdar employee reviews. For Nazdar, the 2000s were divided and defined midway in the decade in 2005 when Nazdar formed 2 divisions: the Ink Manufacturing Division, Nazdar Ink Technologies, which was managed by Vice President and General Manager of NIT, Richard Bowles, and the Nazdar SourceOne Distribution Group, which was managed by Vice President, General Manager Peter Walsh. In 2006, ink production at the Nazdar Chicago plant was moved to the Shawnee facility, and in 2009, ink production at the Nazdar Canada facility was moved to the Shawnee facility to maximize efficiency. The company continues to grow and change in the latter part of this decade. In 2006, Nazdar acquires Lyson Limited in Stockport, England, a manufacturer of inkjet inks for OEMs and end users. This expands the Nazdar inkjet portfolio and product development capabilities. This is one of the first Nazdar Lyson ink brochures. That same year, Nazdar creates a narrow web business unit to manufacture and distribute inks for the flexographic printing process, and that group is managed by Mike Harjung. Soon after this, the Narrow Web Group, with the help of the regulatory department, gets Narrow Web inks REACH compliant in order to expand distribution into the European Union market. The initial lineup of Narrow Web products were the 9300, the 8300, OP UV inks, the 2300 water-based inks, and the 6300 UV inks for offset. The following year, Thrall Enterprises acquires GSI, Graphic Solutions International in Burr Ridge, Illinois, a printer and manufacturer of functional printing and industrial graphics. Nazdar continued to introduce new graphic screen inks in this decade. The first was the 1500 UV Flexiform inks for vacuum forming applications. There was also an introduction of the NSC Crystal Clear inks, which had 10 transparent colors for ultra-clear windows used in nameplate and membrane switch printing applications. After that, the primary focus was on UV power print inks, high performance, fast curing inks designed for multicolor inline printing machines. The first was the 1600 series UV ink for POP displays with an expanded halftone ink set for a multitude of applications. The 1800 power print UV inks for POP substrates like corrugated plastics and polystyrene. And to complete the power print line, the 1900 power print UV screen inks for flexible banners. This was also a lot of innovative marketing during this decade. In 2007, a new Nazdar ink label is pre-printed in full color. The ink series and color code is imprinted on demand as the ink is canned. Here is what the Techwin Lyson ink labels look like for the European market. And also, the new line of Flexo inks for the narrow web market have a similar appearance as the screen ink labels. After years of having Nazdar screen ink color cards produced in a similar manner as house paint color cards, the decision was made in 2003 to print our own color cards in a Fandeck format similar to a Pantone book. The new color cards were printed with actual Nazdar inks on the primary substrate the ink was designed to print on. These color cards are still available today. The marketing group also introduces product information guides that now accompany each ink release. This is a comprehensive binder that includes everything about a new ink line. In 2006, Nazdar SourceOne launches an online store at www.sourceone.com. And 2 years later, in 2008, the first e-blasts are sent out to customers from the Nazdar marketing group. This one for Lyson inks, and here's another one for Catsper software. These are some of the very first e-blasts. Marketing is now producing support materials in Spanish and Chinese. This 2010 graphics brochure is made for the Chinese SGIA or CSGIA. Training continues to be a hallmark at Nazdar internally for sales and support and externally for printers to improve their processes. In the early part of the decade, most Nazdar sales, customer service, and technical support people would have received training in these programs: the fundamentals of ink, UV curing, and process color reproduction. At this same time, Nazdar introduces the Master Print program. This program encompasses specialized inks, a proofing system, and a training program that included Nazdar's top suppliers. This training program was presented to more than 2,500 printers and industry professionals over a 6-year period covering Canada, Mexico, and the United States. This training covered all aspects of color process printing for screen printers, as it included artwork preparation, film output, color proofing, screen making, printing, and the measuring of the printed image to achieve predictable results. Influenced by the Master Print program, Nazdar acquired Rayhan PGF in 2003, a color management, film imaging, and proofing service for large format graphic screen printers. This brought Mike Ruff, Tim and Tony Quinn to Nazdar from Rayhan PGF. 3 years later, Nazdar forms the Nazdar Consulting Services Division to bring the Master Print training program, now branded Chromatics, into printing facilities where consultants implement training and controls to help screen and inkjet printers improve on productivity, quality, and profitability. This program continues today. Finally, there were other noteworthy industry events during these years. ST Publications in Screen Print Magazine acknowledges that Nazdar and Lawson are the only companies that have advertised in every issue of Screen Print Magazine since it began in January of 1953. In 2003, NASMA is formed, the North American Specialty Printing Manufacturers Association, that represents our industry and has had leadership from Richard Bowles, Mike Fox, Dave Austin, and Harold Johnston. In 2006, Don Hutchison introduces the G7 color control methodology, initially for the offset lithography printing of 4-color process images, and is now widely accepted as the best color control method for every printing process using CMYK inks. 2 years later, Nazdar becomes a member of ID Alliance and becomes the first company to qualify a screen printer, a wide format inkjet printer, and a DTG textile printer in the G7 color methodology. Offset press manufacturers see continued decline in installations as digital printing continues to erode the offset printing domination. Print shows no longer have web offset presses on display. Digital press manufacturers consolidate as HP acquires Indigo, EFI acquires Viewtech, and Canon buys Osei. The 2008 worldwide recession helps move print buying to smaller runs, just-in-time inventories, and more image customization. In other words, everything digital. That will be the focus of the final 100 years of Nazdar video next month. Until then, Nazdrovia.